I think it's pretty amazing to know that our inner self, I often call this our soul self, doesn't want all the chitter-chatter of negative thoughts. It wants only one thing, a more positive frequency, because this positive frequency is how we bond with our creative side, and it's how we reach the upper realms where we find inspiration, intuition, and a connection with our muse. So if you've ever wondered how to connect with your inner self and beyond, then this episode is for you.
Well, hi there and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do-Re-Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women with big-ass dreams just like you who want to get unstuck from a life that doesn't work and get to where you know you need to be, into a life that's filled with passions and purpose. Now let's get started with today's episode.
Okay, let me jump off the screen here and change over to my laptop. Today, we're talking about how to connect with your inner self. I often call this your spiritual self or your soul self. Maybe we want to reach a higher creative plane. Maybe we want more success, or maybe we just find ourselves asking, what would my soul want from me? If you aren't getting the success you want in full abundance, however you identify with success, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with higher frequencies so that you can attract the success you're craving, then this episode is for you. Maybe it's time to open up to your hidden power and create something unimaginable, something totally unreasonable, something that maybe even seems impossible, to kick your whole life and all your success into high gear for whatever success means for you. Today, I'm going to try and get you one step closer. As business owners, change makers, thought leaders, innovators, disruptors, or even if we haven't found the right fit in the world yet, whether we're talking about our relationships at home or at work, or when we're talking about our finances, sometimes we find that we're moving away from success. So how do we overcome this? How can we find the clarity and courage we need so that we can unlock our hidden power? Well, it's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to allow that soul connection instead, so we can broadcast our hidden power from the hilltops. This episode is for you if you wonder, do my insights come from the universe or from my own soul? If you wonder, I'm not an angry person, but do I have hidden anger that's blocking my success? Or if you wonder, can I change the course of my journey? Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy, because when you're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has you stuck. It's your energy that's become stuck in doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of your situation, it's the pain of not being connected in the natural energy of who you really are, of being connected to that magical part of you that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what you want and bring it into physical manifestation. Part of this process is to allow your manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where you find the magic of alchemy. And using your hidden power means using these positive energies to effect transformation. Because if you're like me, then you're someone who has the audacity, the willingness to take bold risks and transform challenges into successes. So let's talk about this idea of transformation and the audacity of alchemy, because your choice of frequency can change the course of your journey. You know, there are moments in life that feel so profound and transformative that they lead us to question whether there's some sort of higher purpose to our existence. Moments of personal insight that are sometimes excruciating and beautiful all at the same time. And so we wonder, who's conducting the orchestra? Is it the universe, or is it our own soul? Well, we know that the universe isn't personal. When we think about a problem like, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money, the universe simply responds to that thought pattern. It isn't personal. The universe is simply doing its job, and when we understand how energy behaves in the universe, we can make some adjustments. The universe's job is to respond to our thoughts, and our job is to think positive thoughts about the opportunities and what we want to create in our life. Simple, right? By thinking about these positives, we change the energy and the way it's behaving in the universe. Our choice of thoughts, our frequency, positive or negative, can change the course of our journey. And I think it's pretty amazing to know that our inner self, I often call this our soul self, doesn't want all the chitter-chatter of negative thoughts. It only wants one thing, a more positive frequency. Our inner self only wants one thing, a more positive frequency. And so when we're talking about connecting with our inner self or our soul self, the easiest way to connect is through positive frequencies. Because the thing is, when we're angry, frustrated, confused, we leak our power, and that keeps us stuck. We can't connect. And so I want to present you with an exercise today that's going to help you plug that leak and connect with your soul self. This exercise is how to bond with your creator self and with the upper realms, the upper frequencies. Now, I've called it Finding Your Soul Self in other podcast episodes, e-books, workshops, and even when I do other podcast interviews. But today, we're doing a deep dive. We're going to go one layer deeper than we've ever gone before into a new place where I've never taken you before, and I think you're going to love it. So here we go. On a piece of paper, let's start with 2 stick figures. If you know me, I can't do much more than stick figures. I don't have that particular artistic gene. So we'll start with these 2, and then we'll add to this. And so put one on the left side of the page, and then draw one on the right. And if you'd like to, you can leave a little space there in the middle, because we're going to put something in that middle space in a few minutes. Now, draw a big circle around that stick figure on the right. That circle represents everything that you are and everything that you can be. It represents the greatness that's within you and also the potential for greatness. It's much bigger than you are. And you'd label this your inner self, or you might even call it your inner wisdom. If you're a business owner, you might be calling this your inner CEO. I like to call it my soul self, or even my spiritually centered self. This is our creator self, because we are creative vibrational beings who can effect transformation through the use of these positive energies. This is where we can connect with the upper realms and the higher frequency energies. So the circle is bigger than you are, and it represents all that you are. It represents all opportunities and all possibilities. Now, for the stick figure on the left, label that your ego. That's your inner stuckness. That stick figure is outside the circle, as you'll see, on the left side of the page, and it's detached from you. It's completely out of sorts, and it doesn't have a clue how to solve this challenge that you're in. It may have suffered a spiritual injury or a trauma, and it will often say, I'm not sure, I'm overwhelmed, I'm on autopilot, I'm just going through the motions. It's as though nothing matters, nothing works for me, nothing I try to do will work. I feel stuck. That's on the left side of the page. That's your inner stuckness, or it might also be called your wounded self. Could be your wounded feminine or your wounded masculine. Now, draw a dashed line between that part of you that's stuck and the part of you that has all this genius and wisdom, and I've drawn a little dashed line right there at the bottom of the screen. Now, in our workshops, we affectionately call the left side over here our snotty inner child. And then over on the right side, we might call that our grown-up self. But no matter what we call it, you may immediately see this as a very simple and clear division between fear and love. Fear on the left side, love on the right side. A division between our wounded self and our divine self. All right, lots of things we call it, but I think you get the idea. So this dashed line represents a tension line. It can stretch like a rubber band. It can stretch and expand and then come back. And so can you see how that part of you on the left side that doesn't have a clue how to solve challenges can be a constant distraction with the thinking, and all the emotions where we can become so unhinged. And you can see how maybe it can stretch you away from the you over on the right side of the page that's centered, your soul self that already knows all the answers deep inside. So your ego self can stretch you away from your soul self. It's kind of like that relentless 6-year-old that just keeps whining. Can we get some ice cream? Can we get some ice cream? Can we get some ice cream, please? And it's like a broken record where the needle is stuck going round and round. That's your inner stuckness, round and round. It keeps playing the same tapes over and over. And our thoughts on that side of the page behave the same way. They just keep going and they never stop. And you can see what a distraction that can be, right? So you have the dashed line between these two parts of yourself. Now let's label that dashed line responsibility, because it would be irresponsible to stretch away from your inner self. It would be irresponsible to stretch over to that left side of the page and stay there, because your purpose lives over there on the right side of the page with your soul self, who you are and who you're meant to be. This is where you live in that spiritually centered place. And this is where you always want to be aligned, because aligning with ego is going to keep you, well, it's going to keep you stuck over there on the left side of the page. Now, in my workshops, this is just about the time where we break it down and look more closely at those qualities of your soul self. So let's do that right now. For the right side of the page, we could write down descriptive words for our soul self like expansion, well-being, happiness, inner knowingness, connection. And if this is your inner CEO, you might write down words like persistence, inspiration, executive wisdom, or clarity. Those might be some of the qualities that go on the right side of the page, and you may think of others that you'd like to add over there. Now let's focus back on the left side of the page, but before we do that, because while we're here on the right side of the page, this is where we remember that our choice of frequency can change the course of our journey. When we have the choice to land over here on the right side of the page, it can change the course of our journey. And this is why you hear me say that life begins on the right side of the page. So before we fill in the left side, I just want to take a little short moment here while I'm thinking about it, because if you already know that you sometimes get stuck on the left side of the page there, and you know that you're ready to dissolve life's obstacles that are on your path to success, and if you already know that you're ready to be more over there on that right side of the page, you're ready to be a creator, then you might be ready for this amazing new tool to get you moving into some better patterns and frequencies where success can find its way to you. It's called the Alchemy Matrix, and it's going to help you shape your destiny. It's an interactive roadmap designed to help you solve problems, dissolve barriers, heal spiritual injuries, and bring in a lot of clarity and wisdom so you can create a future that you'd like to see. I just wanted to take a brief reminder here so that you can sign up to learn more about the Alchemy Matrix at successcircleworkshops.com, and I promise to tell you more about that in just a minute. But here we are on the right side of the page, and this is where we have all those spiritual qualities that make us feel spiritually centered or spiritually connected. Now, if you glance over here at the left side, where your ego lives, and this is the part of you that wants to protect you after a spiritual injury or a trauma, you could write down words like doubts, worries, confusion, frustration, indecision, that's a big one, and even anger. And these would be a few qualities that might go on the left side of the page. And of course, feel free to add your own, because there are lots of them when we're talking about the ego. But can we talk about anger just for a second? When we talk about anger, and we do this a lot in our workshops because it's such a common experience, it's a hot topic that affects so many of us from time to time, it's actually appropriate to be angry in certain situations. It's normal to travel up and down the emotional tone scale depending on what situation we're facing. But when we experience an abundance of negative energy, especially anger, it blocks our prosperity and success. And so anytime someone comes to me and says, I have this financial challenge or I'm feeling stuck, this is really the first thing we look at. And I always ask, who are you so angry with? Some people are angry with a person, and some people are angry about a situation, and some are angry at themselves for doing something incredibly counterintuitive or something that goes against their integrity. And so if this is you, if you find yourself in this little description, what we'll often do is start with a journaling exercise where I might ask you to write down, I'm so angry that, and then fill in the blanks until you have nothing left to write down. Just that exercise, just journaling over and over. I'm so angry that, I'm so angry that, I'm angry here, I'm angry there, I'm angry everywhere, and just journal it until there's nothing left. Just that exercise itself can break things open and help you recenter over on the right side of the page. Now, so many of us are naturally optimistic. We have a natural enthusiasm that lives inside of us, and we don't do anger loudly. We aren't aggressive. We aren't bullies. But we do sometimes harbor anger just below the surface. Sometimes it turns inward and becomes depression, and sometimes it lives just right below the surface, and we find ourselves looking at what's wrong, or we start complaining, or we start criticizing, and even that is just a little form of anger. So the important thing to know here is that anger blocks our prosperity. It blocks our success. It blocks everything good. And so if you've ever wondered, am I depressed? Am I blocked? Then you might just look at who you're angry with. Maybe it's you. Maybe you've broken your own integrity and you've involved yourself in something you really don't want to be involved in. So let's look at that dashed line between your two selves and see how these negative emotions, including anger, pull you away, stretch you away, distance you from your spiritually centered self. Anger also distances you from what you want, even from your purpose in life, and it can distance you from your knowingness, that graceful intuition that can serve you so well. So hopefully this diagram kind of breaks it down and shows you an anatomy. You know how I love to look at the anatomy of things. And hopefully it will just emphasize these points that these negative emotions distance you from success. Anger serves only one purpose. It creates that distance between you and the people you love, between you and the things you value. It pulls you away from who you are at your core, making it nearly impossible to create those things you want to create in life. And this is why you hear me talking so much about positive energies and positive emotions. Because these negative energies on the left side of the page, they keep you stuck on that left side of the page. And this is why so often I say it's never the situation that has you stuck. You're stuck on the left side of the page in these negative energies. And you hear me talk about this in every single episode. So when you're feeling stuck, anger is one place to look, and your values would be another good place to look. Where have you been sacrificing your own integrity? And what can you do to immediately get realigned with your own integrity over there on the right side of the page? When you don't know where to begin, stop trying to solve the problem and work instead on getting your integrity back in and getting realigned on the right side of the page. I can't emphasize this enough. Stop trying to solve the problem and look for places where your integrity is out so you can get back on the right side of the page, even in the smallest ways, and look for ways that you can increase your integrity. Because when people are angry within themselves, this is often what's happened. The integrity has gone out in some small way. All right, so we have this basic concept of the ego self versus the soul self, and we know that whenever we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation. It's our energy that's become stuck on the left side of the page. And we know that it's through positive energies on the right side of the page that we connect not only with our soul self, but this also gives us better access to the upper realms and higher frequency energies. And I'd like to go a layer deeper. When we go through a spiritual injury or some kind of trauma, our timeline gets messed up and we blur the lines between past and present, sometimes because we're so triggered. We blur the lines between past and present. We may also have a corruption of our moral compass, a point where that integrity went out just a little bit. And when that happens, we sometimes end up not knowing which way is up, which way is down, even sometimes which way is right or wrong. We get confused, we get all blurred. Right? Most of all, with spiritual injury, we sometimes lose our identity. We don't know who we are now after what we've been through. And so, boy, our emotions could be all over the place and all mixed up. So I'd like to add in a third stick figure that goes right in between what we've already drawn. And so now our ego is way over on the left side. Our soul is way over on the right side. And then right there in the middle with this new little guy, let's label this little guy our current ego. Because we change over time, right? Our situations change. We may have experienced some personal or spiritual growth, and who we were once, way on the left side, may not be who we are right now, right here in the middle. So sometimes it's helpful to kind of digest these or kind of pull them apart. Our ego, way over on the left, would now become our past ego, the one that was traumatized. And our current ego is the one that we're left with, that we live with right now. Make sense? All right. So think of a situation you've been through a past situation that was life-changing, one of those defining moments. Maybe it's where you experienced a trauma or something life-changing, something that just redefined who you were. And I'm going to use the example of Alice, someone who was in one of my workshops recently, and yes, I've changed her name. So Alice went through a bad divorce when our economy changed back in 2008, 2009, back then. She ultimately lost her marriage, also lost her home, and because of the economy, also lost her business. And so I asked her about her past ego from 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever it was, and those emotions that she was feeling back then in 2008. And here's what she wrote down. Frustration, by the way, that was her strongest emotion. Anger, confusion, grief, judgment, and that sense of loss, and she was feeling lost. And so here we are, so many years later, and she's in a new relationship and has a new business, but she's lost her entire retirement portfolio as a result of what happened years ago. And so she's in a new struggle now. And so I asked her about her current ego, those negative emotions she's feeling in present time, and here's what she wrote down. And her negative emotions currently are that she's feeling defeated, burned out, overwhelmed. That's her strongest emotion because, see, things and events have stacked one on top of another. So she's feeling spent. She's feeling untethered from her soul self, untethered from her guidance, untethered from her faith, her trust. And she said, I can't go back to that pain from back then so many years ago, and now I just want normal. But you can see how all these negative emotions have stacked up on each other, and they've just become one big knotted mess. So why do we have these two stick figures here? Well, remember how I said that sometimes we change over time, our situations change, we evolve, maybe we've experienced some personal or spiritual growth. Life changes over time. And sometimes we don't change all that much in a 10-year period, sorry to say, because of our experiences. So my point is, if you want to change the course of your journey, if you want to connect with your inner self, with your soul self, if you want to bond with that creative vibrational being that can create the positive life experiences that you'd like to experience, your journey really doesn't matter. It all happens, all this change happens over here on the right side of the page. It doesn't matter how many experiences have stacked up, how much negative emotions have stacked up over time, how much more overwhelmed or how much more defeated you may feel. It doesn't matter because change happens over here on the right side of the page. This is your hidden power. And this is where the highest responsibility is, because remember, it would be irresponsible to allow your past ego or your current ego to pull you into the past, back into those negative energies. It's through these positive energies that we can affect transformation. Remember, our choice of frequency, positive or negative, can change the course of our journey. Our choice of energy can change the course of our journey. Our soul self doesn't want all the chitter-chatter of negative thoughts. It only wants one thing, a more positive frequency, because that's where alchemy happens. So here's your exercise for today. Got a couple of steps for you here, but it's really simple. Step number one, think of a past situation you've been through that was life-changing, one of those defining moments. Step number two is to write down 5 or 6 negative thoughts or emotions that were consuming you at that time. And then once you've done that, think of a current situation that's challenging you right now, something current. And then write down 5 or 6 negative thoughts or emotions that are persistent right now, that just won't go away. They're always with you. And then, on a separate piece of paper or over on a right-hand column or someplace distinctly different, I'd like you to write down 5 or 6 qualities of your soul self. Those thoughts or emotions that represent who you are when you feel spiritually centered. And you can use this stick figure exercise if that helps you. I know for me, I love the anatomy. I love to draw things out. And then the next step, choose one quality of your soul self that could have helped you through that original situation. And ask yourself whether choosing that frequency could have changed the course of your journey. For instance, if you were Alice and you were going through a bad divorce, instead of allowing frustration, anger, and confusion to dominate your energy patterns, what would have happened if you had instead chosen compassion or resilience? Could your choice of frequency have changed the course of your journey? And then lastly, as you're considering that current challenge that you're facing, could your choice of frequency change the course of your current journey? As you consider the current challenge that you're facing, could your choice of frequency change the course of your journey? And that's your exercise for today, to really embody and use these ideas so that you can be in the flow of positive possibilities for success. Yes, this is your invitation to step it up a notch and do something unimaginable, something unreasonable, something that maybe even seems impossible, and that is to move over to that right side of the page, because remember, to the universe, nothing is impossible. All that's required from you is a shift in frequency, because your choice of frequency can change the course of your journey. Well, I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. But if you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck, you can tell me about it. You can leave a question right here, or if you're someone who has the audacity, the willingness to take bold risks to transform challenges into success, you can find out more about our events at successcircleworkshops.com. This is where you can learn more about the audacity of alchemy and how to unlock your hidden power. You'll get a personalized interactive roadmap that's custom designed to get you unstuck by unlocking your hidden power to create big magical changes, alchemy. You'll learn to solve problems, dissolve barriers, and bring success to you. So don't wait. Go to successcircleworkshops.com and get your personalized alchemy matrix package right now. That's hard to say 3 times fast. So here's what you're going to get. A full-color workbook filled with hands-on exercises to inspire your creative energies. You'll get membership in your very own Success Circle for high-level masterminding and networking. You'll get your very own customized alchemy matrix to unlock your hidden power and bring success to you, and your very own personal unstuckologist. Remember, the alchemy matrix is the only tool of its kind, and it's only available here. So if you're ready to approach your life's challenges with audacity, and if you're ready to finally banish frustration, indecision, and a negative spiral, if you're ready to watch success materialize right before your eyes, then don't settle for another minute of the left side of the page. Go to successcircleworkshops.com and get your personalized alchemy matrix package now, and watch the magic start to happen. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you in one of our upcoming Success Circles. You can find out more at successcircleworkshops.com.